The anime begins with a group of people heading somewhere. They are called the Red Clan, led by Mikoto. His men are ordered to raid someone in a building. They begin to disguise as pizza delivery men and break into the building and immediately beat someone inside. They ask the man something while showing a picture. Not long after that, Mikoto arrives accompanied by Anna. He checks if there is something off, but it seems there is nothing there. They leave the room and are surprised to find the Blue Clan stops them. Mikoto advances to attack the Blue Clan and shows his sword in the sky, indicating there is a king among them. On the other hand, Blue Clan draws their swords, get ready for combat. Elsewhere, in a peaceful city, Ashinaka High School looks quiet and neat. In this school, the main character, Izani Yashiro, studies there. He is known to close with others, but there is a girl who feels he is weird. As Yashiro walks around the school, she runs across campus to find him. Yashiro eats his lunch atop one of the school's buildings, accompanied by an invisible girl. After eating his lunch, he decides to return to his class. When heading back to class, Yashiro sees that everyone's preparing for the upcoming festival. The head of the council named Kyukuri announces that the school council needs someone to run errands, and because no one wants to do it, it is eventually decided that Yashiro will do it. She writes him a list of things to get in town, penning it on paper rather than transferring the notes to his PDA, which he seems to have lost. Yashiro then heads out of the campus to get the items. While out in the city, Yashiro is spotted by someone, who then informs his fellow members, who are none other than the Red Clan. On the other hand, there is someone named Kuro who is also monitoring Yashiro and people who are chasing him. After purchasing the items for the school while outside the store, Yashiro is ambushed by Yada. Luckily, he manages to avoid his attack. Yashiro flees for safety, chased by a group of people who want to kill him. They chase Yashiro throughout the city until they corner him in an alley. Izumo is seen ready to strike him. Suddenly, Kuro takes Yashiro away from the scene. Izumo then runs Plan B. He hijacks the city network and displays the same picture. Meanwhile, Yashiro, who was saved previously, turns out he will be murdered by Kuro, the follower of the 7th king who had passed away. He remembers his master's words saying that if there is a king who behaves like evil, he must be killed. On the other hand, the city networks display a mortifying video. A young man, who was recording night scenery with a video camera, is suddenly shot by an individual who coincidentally resembles Yashiro. Yashiro watches the video and is confused to see the man resembles him, but he believes he didn't do that. Yashiro is threatened to be killed as it is proven in the video that he was the murderer. However, Yashiro denies it as he believes he didn't kill the man. Yashiro tries to escape from Kuro, but Kuro outwits him. Yashiro then asks Kuro to be granted a final request. Yashiro says that he would like to write his younger sister a farewell letter. He elaborates further that she is very ill and currently being hospitalized, additionally have virtually no companions, as well as any other relatives. Yashiro begins writing in a piece of paper and finishes it in time to hand it to Kuro. Kuro reads the letter, but realizes from it that Yashiro had been lying. Suddenly, Yashiro sets off a number of flash bombs to escape. Frustrated, he kicks the door and leaves. However, it turns out that Yashiro merely hid himself in an animal-themed bodysuit on the rooftop. In another part of the city, Red Clan proceeds next movement. They post Yashiro's picture in the city's network system with a reward of 10 million yen for those who can catch him. Shortly after, people begin calling the group about the request. Anna finally locates Yashiro and confirms he is nearby. Izumo then gives Yashiro's location to his fellow members. Yashiro walks around the city and he meets Kuro and Yada, who arrives at the same time. To buy some time, Yashiro confronts both Kuro and Yada that makes them getting involved in a fight. Kuro wins the duel this time, but as Kuro wants to see Yashiro, Yashiro has once again escaped. But Kuro manages to find a clue. In the meantime, Yashiro returns to his dorm room in his school. He rests atop the bed and thinks aloud about the recent hassles he's been facing to the pink cat, who is still with him. To his surprise, he discovers the cat has disappeared with a naked girl in place, right next to him on his bed. Embarrassed and shocked to see her, Yashiro springs from his bed, asking who she is. She states that she is Nico. On the other hand, Kuro, who has a clue about Yashiro's whereabouts, heads to the school. The head of the council approaches him and tells him she will help him. She informs that Yashiro is currently not at the school, but she will tell him where his dormitory is. Yashiro is called by the head of the council, but he is surprised when he finds Kuro in front of him. He begins to run to his dormitory, but he is surprised to see Nico there. Yashiro takes the chance to run away with Nico. Neko has a power to manipulate someone or making illusion and fools Kuro several times. Further attempts result in him trying to evade the illusions, though ultimately he ends up being stumped anyway. He continues chasing Yashiro, who in turn keeps chasing Nico. Such a chase continues throughout the rest of the day and well into the morning. By morning, the three are left very exhausted and hungry. Yashiro suggests that he and Kuro set aside their differences so that they can eat breakfast, which he unsuccessfully attempts to make. An exasperated Kuro decides to cook breakfast for the three himself. He uses cooking equipment from his briefcase, which Kukuri brought up to the room sometime earlier. Once finished, he serves the food and eats with the two younger teenagers. Previously, the Red and Blue clans were fighting. The king of the Red clan, Mikoto, surrendered easily, and now he is in a deep slip in a jail. Suddenly, the king of the Blue clan, Risi, wakes him up. He feels suspicious with Mikoto as he was deliberately willing to go with him for an arrest. He thinks Mikoto is up to something. Mikoto even tells Risi to guard him himself. Risi asks his lieutenant whether Mikoto has a plan to carry out. He also tells her to keep her eyes on Mikoto. On the other hand, in Red Clan, Izumo is in his bar with Anna. Shortly after, Yada comes with his friends starting to make commotion. Izumo stops the two and scolds them for damaging the bar. Apparently, they are arguing about Mikoto. He tells them their king will betray Red Clan and side with Blue Clan. It makes Yada angry. Izumo then explains why Mikoto surrendered himself, which is so that they can do anything they please. They seem to believe what Yada said, which turns out a lie. Returning to Yashiro, he asks the people who were chasing him earlier. Kuro explains they are Red Clan. They want to take revenge on one of their members who was murdered. In other words, they were chasing Yashiro because Yashiro resembles the person who killed their member. Same with Kuro, he will kill Yashiro once they finish their breakfast. On the other hand, the Red Clan is in the weapons delivery point. They obtain several clues, but suddenly, one of Blue members, Fushimi, attacks all of them. After finishing his meal, Yashiro asks why Kuro wants to kill him. Kuro explains that it is the order he was given by his master, who is also a king. His master has a power to look into the future. He said if there is his successor who killed someone, he must be killed. It turns out Yashiro is the current king. He proceeds to explain more about the hierarchy of the kings and their actual power over the country, above the prime minister. As it turns out, the prime minister is living under the orders of the kings, at least the Blue king. Red Clan keeps searching about Yashiro. Fushimi comes, but he ignores Yada and the others. Yashiro, Kuro, and Nico finish up their meals. Kuro goes to kill Yashiro, but Yashiro stops him, trying to prove how he is actually innocent. Kuro then asks him about Nico if she works for him. Yashiro is confused as he doesn't know who she is, but Sho will prove Yashiro is innocent. Kuro then hands in the recorder to Yashiro. As he plays the recorder, it is decided that Yashiro will be given a chance. Yashiro asks him what it is, to which Kuro happily explains it is a recording of the quotes from his master. The following day, Kuro prepares lunch for Yashiro, Neko, and himself. Yashiro is surprised and happy at the same time. As he gets ready to school, his cleaning robot goes attacking himself. Yashiro then attends class with Kuro. Yashiro explains Kuro is a transfer student. He meets Kukuri and gets to know her. On the other hand, Neko, who wants to pick on Kuro, suddenly transforms into a human and claims as a transfer student. During lunch, while several students are preparing for the festival, Kukuri brings veggie lunches to Yashiro. She finds him eating homemade meals with Kuro and Neko though, surprising her. As Kukuri shares her lunches with a hungry Neko instead, who refuses as it is filled with vegetables. Yashiro is looking at the pictures of someone who looks like him. His friends had known the video and suggest him to admit it if he did that. Yashiro is silenced, don't know what to do. In the meantime, Blue Clan finally detects where Yashiro is, and so does the Red Clan. Both clans discover Yashiro on Ashinaka High School and proceed to go there. Yashiro, Kuro, and Neko dress themselves in Japanese garments to represent historical figures in Japan's history for the school event. Yashiro concludes that if he were to find a person who saw him on the school campus within an hour of 11:45 p.m. on December 7, he'd have an alibi. Kukuri arrives shortly and is asked whether she saw him at the festival that day. However, she states she could not recall him there. This disappoints Yashiro. Thus, he continues his search for evidence. He searches around the school, including the student council's office, for any information regarding the events of December 7 to 8. However, at that time, they were evacuating Mishina at top of the building and could recall Yashiro there. Yashiro is then suggested to get to the photography club, but Yashiro is disappointed as no one saw him there during that time. Kuro has seemed to lose his patience to kill him. Yashiro refuses to give up, and shortly after, Kukuri shows up asking him to bring stuff to the office. Kuro quickly helps her. Yashiro then has an idea. He asks the school database of the students who left the school area during that time. As it is stated in the list, his name isn't found in the list, meaning that he never passed through their gates to exit the school on the day of the festival. Yashiro is relieved as it proves he was not the murderer. However, as he is about to buy drink for Nico, he forgets he needs to use his PDA. Luckily, Kukuri comes and she then explains that Yashiro doesn't carry his PDA with him frequently. He even doesn't have one. And since a school PDA is required to exit the gate, Yashiro could only sneak out and he won't be listed in the school database. Hearing that, Kuro immediately gets ready to kill him, but Nico stops him. Yashiro continues to resist. Kuro then recalls his past that stops him carrying out his plan. Yashiro intends to prove his innocence to others. Kukuri then remembers she saw Yashiro in the school gymnasium around 1:30. Thus, it is likely that Yashiro is not the murderer, as the villain must have been in the crime scene. Yashiro feels relieved and nothing else to worry about. Kuro returns to the class. He decides to help in the production for the school's festival, acting as a motivator for several of the students. In the meantime, Yashiro returns to his room to change, but he remembers he has left his clothes at school. He decides to take a shirt from his closet. He picks up a shirt, but before taking it out, he notices several bloods stained from the shot on the front. He starts to remember as if he did that. Shortly after, Nico arrives, telling him to go there with Kukuri. Yashiro is still confused with what really happened with him. Meanwhile, Yada and Kamamoto arrive at the school's gate. They both attempt to pass through the gates. However, as they did not carry a PDA to gain access, so that they are unable to pass. The students are busy preparing costumes for the festival. Kuro is seen repairing Kukuri's clothes, while Yashiro is procrastinating. He had been thinking about the blood-stained clothes in his closet. Kukuri then tells him to do something. Awashima asks Fushimi and Yada to get Yashiro. They finally get to enter the school by using other students' PDA. On the other hand, Yashiro leaves the school with Nico to buy fireworks. Fushimi and Awashima have arrived at the school. They go to the director's room to ask permission to search for someone. Unfortunately, they are not allowed to track down the person they want. Fushimi sneaks out and walks across the campus. In the meantime, Yada and Kamamoto begin asking various students about whether they know someone who resembles Yashiro. However, no one is able to give them a positive answer. At the same time, Fushimi heads to the student council's office, still trying to look for Yashiro. As soon as he finishes up, Fushimi hears a ruckus outside and checks to see. He finds that Yada and Kamamoto are still asking students about Yashiro and smiles wickedly to himself. Fushimi then goes outside to greet them. Yada is tempted to fight but manages to hold back after a few words from Kamamoto. After Fushimi makes a remark about Mikoto, Yada decides to engage. Both clashes using a variety of weapons. Fushimi is a former member of Red Clan. His power grows stronger and he has power of 2 different aura, making Yada cannot do anything. Yada pulls himself up and shares a brief spat with Fushimi before the two resume their battle. Suddenly, the battle is interrupted by the presence of Awashima. Awashima tells them that Mikoto is fine. The two head to a sports field in the school and rest by the bleachers, where Kamamoto bandages Yada's wound. Kamamoto states that they should go back. Yada agrees, but only after he asks one last person. Incidentally, Fushimi reports to Siri that while hacking into the school's database, he did not find anyone who matches up to Tatsuka's murderer. On the other hand, Yata meets Kukuri and asks her, but she does not seem to recall knowing the student they look for. In his cell, Mikoto dreams of when she lost his subordinate named Tatsuka. Actually, the power is used to protect others, not to destroy anything. But after Tatsuka's death, he cannot bear it. He then wakes up from his sleep. Elsewhere, Yashiro and Nico are at a restaurant. Yashiro is still thinking about the incident. As he looks around, there are pictures of students hanging on the wall, but he can't spot his picture. On the other hand, in Izumo's bar, he gets a visitor who surprisingly is Awashima. Awashima gives her order and receives her drink shortly after. She asks Izumo their plan that they gave up their king easily. Izumo gives his thoughts in response. As she prepares to leave, she stops briefly to look at a jukebox near the windows. Kusanagi explains that it once belonged to one of his clansmen. It happened before Mikoto became the king. When he was in the bar, Izumo got informed that Tatsuka was beaten up by the thugs. He headed to the hospital, and as he reached there, he saw Tatsuka was badly injured. Mikoto was angry and determined to avenge him, but Tatsuka calmed him down, and as a result, he got smacked by Mikoto instead. Tatsuka was sure Mikoto would become a king one day. Elsewhere, Yashiro continues his mission to buy fireworks. As they arrive there, he cannot read the notes from Kukuri. Thus, Kuro decides to call Kukuri, but Nico suddenly prevents him calling Kukuri, and she asks them to go home. As she is persistent, she finally leaves and they call Kukuri. However, as they call Kukuri, a strange thing happens. Kukuri somehow doesn't recognize Yashiro and hangs up. Kuro has explained what happens, causing him to wonder whether Nico was involved in the situation. He lets Yashiro use his phone again to call his home. Unfortunately, Yashiro discovers that his house number is no longer in service. Returning back to Mikoto, after he became a king, he often dealing with local thugs. Tatsuka argues that it is not necessarily a bad thing and that his power should be used to protect those he cares about. Several months later, they got more members, and Tatsuka was often accompanied by many members, especially Yata. Izumo and Mikoto thought that even if Tatsuka was poor at fighting, he could bring peace for them. They were practicing skateboard. As Tatsuka failed many times, Anna then suggested him to show his talent, singing. He also had an old play recorder. He then sang a song while playing a guitar. Later, he was found dead from a gunshot by the king of the Colorless Clan, which is assumed to be Yashiro. This incident made the Red Clan, especially Mikoto, furious and hold deep grudge against the murderer. On the other hand, Yashiro and Kuro are heading to Yashiro's house. He is confused as when he tried to call his home, he couldn't reach it. There are some possibilities. It can be if he changed his number or he moved, or he was lying all the time. They arrive at a soccer stadium that it is supposed to be where his house is. As he ponders, Kuro suggests that he may not be who he believes he is. Yashiro agrees and begins to question whether a person named Yashiro Asana even exists. He then asks Kuro if he still wants to kill him while he readies for death. However, Kuro instead plays a message from his master from his recorder. He explains that he will not kill Yashiro until he knows that he is guilty. Suddenly, the lights flash at them. It turns out the Blue Clan have surrounded them. Awashima asks them to give up, but they refuse and choose to fight instead. Kuro will face Awashima, who gets ready with the other members. Nico, who is present, transforms the stadium into the streets of the city, leaving them in confusion. Kuro takes the moment to beat some of the Blue Clan members, but unfortunately, Awashima manages to fight back. Not long after that, her king arrives to help them along with the sword in the sky. He is Risi. He figures out it was a manipulation power to change someone's perception. He slowly dispels Nico's illusions while simultaneously identifying him for himself. Kuro orders that Yashiro and Nico leave. However, Yashiro suddenly stops midway to look back at where he came from. Kuro then opens a way for them to leave while he will face Risi. Risi thinks that Kuro has become Yashiro's man. The fight ensued, but Kuro doesn't use his sword as he believes it is not used to such a thing. He tries to attack with multiple palm strikes or kicks. Yashiro refuses to leave Kuro fighting alone. Risi keeps asking Kuro about Yashiro, who is assumed as the weakest king. Moreover, Risi wonders what if he is only fooled by Yashiro. However, Kuro doesn't care a bit of that until he gets knocked down by Risi. Shortly after, the lights go out, and Yashiro suddenly appears. Suddenly, he draws out a white light from the palms of his hands, which in turn transforms into a giant sword-like object floating in the sky, indicating he is a king. Yashiro speaks briefly to Kuro through a telepathic method. A second later, both of them flee from the stadium. Once again, the Blue Clan is fooled by Nico's trick. Owashima quickly anticipates the three of them. After getting out of the stadium, wonders what Risi meant about Nico, who was able to manipulate or change someone's perception. Kuro explains that Nico is able to give a false memory to someone. Finally, they think they have seen the light. Yashiro wonders if she can help restore his memories and asks that she makes an attempt. He is reminded of the consequences for whatever is revealed, though Yashiro explains that regardless, he will take responsibility for his past actions. Nico is reluctant to reveal Yashiro's memories but eventually gives in, showing him her first memory of him. She reveals the night that she met Yashiro in Ashinaka High School's gymnasium around December 7 to 8. Yashiro is actually not a student of Ashinaka High School. He descended from the sky onto the school. Neko approached him, and at the same time, Kukuri arrived and was surprised to find him in the room. Initially, Yashiro didn't know anything about him. Even he didn't know his name. Neko then used her power, making Kukuri recognize him as Yashiro. Once the memory has fully returned to him, Yashiro asks if she can delve further into his memories from before. Nico makes another attempt and succeeds. In the new memory, Yashiro recalls being pushed off Wiseman, the Silver King. This fact surprises him. However, he is relieved that he has a clue. After that, they plan to go back to the school, but Yashiro wants to get his problem clear. On the other hand, the Blue Clan is unable to chase Yashiro and the company. They have failed by Kuro and Nico. Not long after that, Fushimi arrives, reporting that his troops have been knocked out, which was Kuro's doing. Fushimi tries to locate where the others are. There is evidence left from the scene and is shown a note with the numbers 14.00 imprinted on one side, indicating the 14 o'clock time. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Risi receives a cell phone call. He answers it and receives a response from Yashiro. Owashima quickly tracks his PDA, while the two are negotiating through the line. Yashiro tells him that he is not the man behind the incident. Furthermore, he says that he knows of a certain man inside an airship. Rishi finds out it was the Silver King, Wiseman. Yashiro tells him if he gets to meet him with Wiseman, he will willingly surrender. Risi accepts the deal, while Fushimi and the others are trying to find Yashiro's whereabouts. They have arrived at the location, but Yashiro and company have gone. Yashiro and the others are apparently have moved in the ship. Later, Nico will take part in the plan. Elsewhere, the Blue Clan gets ready to capture the Silver King. They occupy several trucks and drives towards an airport. Meanwhile, Risi still hasn't got answer from Wiseman that they will meet him. Risi declares that they will now take the Silver King into custody. Despite not having permission to do so, he states that it is better that they take action. Fushimi is not sure if the Silver King is in the airship. Risi explains the ship follows different routes in the air that has not changed in the decades, yet recently, a certain incident has suddenly disrupted its normal routine. Risi also suspects the Silver King is involved with the incident of Tatsuka's death. Eventually, they arrive at the airport and prepare to take off in the provided helicopters. They begin to get close to the ship. Wiseman is seen dancing. He notices the several helicopters flying around outside and exclaims he will face them. Elsewhere, Yashiro wants to know about the Silver King. Kuro hasn't met him, but he knows from his master. The Silver King is the first king, though there is the Gold King. So the Silver King became the Lord of the Air, while the Gold King became the Lord of the mainland. Aboard, Nico begins tinkering with the helicopter's controls and wanting to get to the ship. She takes hold of the control stick and plummets the helicopter towards the blimp's engines. Suddenly, there is a massive explosion in the night sky. Wiseman destroys the airship along with himself.
白銀の王ってやつのこと一元様より拝聴したそれでいい聞かせてかの黄金の王が黄金の王と並んで特別な第一王権者かおい誰だもっと飛行を安定させろカピカー不審な挙動守備よく飛行船に乗り移ったできないよバカ猫どこのバカだ
In 1945, Wiseman is a researcher who conducted an experiment before the lieutenant using albino mice as test subjects. He wants to know how the kings get their power. Suddenly, a red aura of the other albino mice causes an explosion, resulting in the collapse of the experimenting table. Just then, Wiseman's older sister appears. Claudia pinches her brother's ribs and scolds him for his rudeness, especially since his research receiving a stipend. Sometime later in April, air bombers attacked the city. The attack destroyed the city and killed many citizens, including his sister. He was engulfed in a great grief. After that incident, he determined to fly on his airship. He had become the Silver King at that moment. On the other hand, the helicopter where Yashiro and the other are is torn apart, along with Weissman's airship. However, Weissman is taken by several masked men. Local policemen are investigating the scene, but they cannot find anything. Another team led by Shirio Washima goes to personally investigate the helicopter that also crashed. They find their colleagues in a hangar. At Ashinaka High School, students continue working hard for the school festival. Mishina accidentally bends a nail in one of the wood planks and asks for someone to give him a tool to remove it, only to realize that there's no one nearby. When Kyukuru walks by asking for students to help her out, Mishina suggests asking him to help her despite both failing to remember which particular person they are referring to. Kukuri wants to store the clothes in an empty dorm. She wants the room to be cleared. It turns out to be Yashiro's room. They feel the place has been used recently. It is possibly that Nico's influence starts fading that they forget about Yashiro. Meanwhile, Weissman is brought to the Gold King's place. He is put in the coffin. Shortly after, Risi comes to see him, but the Gold King prevents him. Risi doesn't want to fight him. Thus, the Gold King allows him to stay. He then asks Risi what he wants. Risi begins explaining that the incident is because Weissman's doing. He had caused commotion. Furthermore, he says he wants to see Weissman from a close distance as he believes that Weissman is immortal. Outside, Risi feels that Weissman is still alive, but he surely can be defeated. On the other hand, Mikoto receives a present in his prison cell, which is simply a red telephone. The phone suddenly picks itself up and the caller on the other end reveals a masked spirit, a white fox-like creature. He claims that he is Tatsuka's murderer and he called from Yashiro's dormitory. Afterwards, he is pulled into an illusion crafted by the fox, which he manages to pull himself out. The fox retreats back to the caller, who is in Yashiro's old room, followed by Mikoto's flame, which ignites the phone, causing an explosion. Mikoto realizes where his target is located and destroys his shackles in the bars. He is confronted by the Blue Klansmen outside. They attempt to bind Mikoto when he refuses to give in. Mikoto exerts his aura and launches an attack on the Klansmen. He is greeted by several of his men. It turns out it is his plan, waiting for the clue where the person is. Mikoto reveals that their target is on Ashinaka High School and they march off towards their destination. At school, Kukuri and Sumika carry boxes filled with supplies around the hallways in the school buildings. Kukuri stops near the windows to take a break and sees a sword of Damocles hovering in the sky near the entrances. Suddenly, an explosion occurs near the entrances due to the works of the Red Clan. The students begin running away as soon as the clan emerges from outside the campus. Izumo tries to calm them down, explaining they are searching for a person. All the members begin to check all the students and give them the picture. However, none of them recognize the person in the picture. It is likely that Nico's influence is gone that everyone doesn't recognize him. While searching for Yashiro, Yada finds out that the Blue King is outside the boundaries. Izumo then orders one of the members to guard the school gate. While the Blue Clan waits outside on the other end of the bridge, Awashima formally apologizes to Risi for her inability to keep Mikoto. There, they subsequently discuss the predicted battle between their forces. Rishi leaves the command on Awashima while he goes for something. As the snow falls, Anna heads out to the courtyards to see Mikoto. Azumo is seen on a line with someone. He tells Yada to stand guard. Azumo is informed of recent activity around the school that looks quiet. He cannot wait to fight, especially against Fushimi. On the other hand, Fushimi also feels the same. He cannot wait to launch attack. Fushimi betrayed Yada by joining the Blue Clan to make him stronger. Azumo goes to meet Mikoto. They discuss about Tatsuka. Once the conversation has come to a conclusion, Mikoto leaves Izumo and Anna to venture forth into the forests. In the forest, Mikoto encounters the Blue King. Risi asks Mikoto to retreat and quit spreading terror to the students. Furthermore, he offers to kill the person they want to kill. It sounds a good idea, as Mikoto's sword has almost reached its limit, and if he pushes it further with his power, something may occur. Mikoto must quit being a king, but Mikoto refuses. He says he wants to get the person by himself. Though his lifetime as a king is nearly over, he tells Risi to mind their own business. Risi then leaves Mikoto. On the other hand, Yashiro and the company have arrived at the school. Yashiro enters the torn dormitory due to the explosion. They are aware that both the Blue and Red Clan have been there, and the war will surely occur. But he refuses to flee as the school is Yashiro's home, and Nico wants to clear what is happening. Kuro is confused what to do. This time, he doesn't play his master's quote, but he will help Kukuri and the others. Later that night, someone is seen planting bombs in the buildings. Mikoto recalls Reisi's words that he almost runs out of his king's life. Mikoto tells Izumo to replace him while he goes out. Reisi, who initially failed to convince Mikoto, says he must attack the Red Clan. Just then, an explosion has occurred in the school building. They head to the location. The Red Clan gets ready to fight Blue Clan. As they are about to clash each other, Reisi feels something is off, and suddenly an explosion occurs. Reisi thinks it is Mikoto's doing. He leaves his men to Awashima to lead the fight, while he goes to the explosion source. There he sees member of Red Clan is about to get hit by the ruin. He proceeds to help him, but he stabs him. The explosions keep occurring, though the Red Clan didn't do that. Anna feels something is off as she looks on top of the school building. There is someone firing at them. It turns out a member of Blue Clan. The situation is getting harder, but Anna has figured out. Unfortunately, she suddenly faints. Meanwhile, several students begin running away from the exploding buildings. Kukuri sees someone from Blue Clan approaching her. Luckily, Kuro comes to help her, while Yashiro and Nico come running behind him. As they want to leave the building, Mikoto shows up. Mikoto is ready to kill Yashiro, but is stopped by Kuro, but he is thrown aside with ease. Neko then uses her powers to create a distraction. Kuro orders them to run away, while he will deal with Mikoto, but he is easily overpowered. Just then, Reisi comes to help. Kuro and the others quickly run away. The two clans fight with all their might.
Kuro! 状況はだったら話が
Yashiro, Kuro, Nico, and Kukuri hide out in a shopping building within the school. There, Nico complains that she is done fighting and tells Yashiro that they should run away while they have the chance, since they've already rescued Kukuri. Kukuri then notices a wound on Yashiro's lower abdomen and asks to see it. However, when he walks towards her, Kukuri suddenly grabs a shard of broken glass and pierces his chest. Kuro quickly pins her. It turns out she is possessed by the fox creature. He had possessed the clan members, and he also wants to take over Yashiro, but he can hold it back. Kukuri then leaves with the fox-like creature. In his mind, Yashiro remembers the incident in 1945 that belongs to Weissman's memories. Not long after that, Yashiro awakens and emits an aura. The blue and red kings who are fighting spot the light. Everyone is looking at the silver light that later reveals a sword, indicating that Silver King lies inside of Yashiro. It turns out that what Reisi said about Weissman, that he is immortal, is true. He can live inside Yashiro. In other words, the colorless king is not Yashiro himself. However, the war is still going on. It is then mentioned the moment when the fox creature possessed Weissman that made Weissman make Yashiro fell from the airship. Weissman, still in the body of Yashiro, explains what had happened on December 7 to Kuro and Nico. He summarizes with the fact that he and the new colorless king essentially exchanged bodies. Furthermore, the only reason why he wasn't completely possessed is because he is the Silver King. Kuro quickly realizes that the Silver King's power is to be inviolable to external changes, and that the power of the colorless king can affect the others. Kuro also deduces that the colorless king is the true culprit behind Tatsuka's murder. Yashiro adds that the fox-like creature who is now king has currently taken over Kukuri's body, and thus he must save her. He then requests that Kuro and Nico help him accomplish his goal. Returning to the war, Awashima is seen to have a hard time dealing with the war, but she is relieved to see her king is fine. Shortly after, Yashiro arrives, but he cannot be touched. Instead, Awashima is affected by his power.
実は少し貴様ちょっと待ってねいやーまた幻覚かご心配なくつまり一時的に僕の
Meanwhile, Kuro enters the battlefield of the Red and Blue clansmen. He tells them all to cease fighting as it is the orders of the Silver King. However, both Fushimi and Yada tell him to not interfere with their situations. The three then prepare for a fight with each other. Anna suddenly feels the presence of a king and goes to open the windows. Moments later, Yashiro and his temporary Silver clansmen enter the room through the building. Soon after, Izumo receives a call from the Gold King who wishes to talk to Yashiro. Mikoto and Reisi enjoy themselves in the midst of the battle. The war is getting fierce even more. The fox-like creature watches them from afar, feeling glad to see them clashing on each other. Yashiro is talking to the Gold King. This time, Wiseman must take responsibility for what is happening. He will do something to end this. It turns out the Gold King is the lieutenant who worked with Wiseman back then. Izumo and Awashima are ready to evacuate students. There, Wiseman and Yashiro ask Nico to help them and at the same time recruit her to be their clansman, which she agrees. As the students are confused with the current situation, Yashiro heads out and tells everyone to go to the destined place. His friends hardly recognize him. After that, he finds the fox-like creature. Nico faints from exhaustion soon after. It is time to do his duty. Yashiro, but he says that he cannot promise anything to them. On the other hand, the fox-like creature almost reaches his goal. He wants to rule all the kings. The war goes on. The victory is not decided yet. Kuro is still fighting Fushimi and Yada, where the others have already been in the evacuation site. Both then are brought to the evacuation site. Yashiro appears and he then proceeds to run his plan. Before that, Kuro offers himself to be Yashiro's clansman. On the other hand, the fox-like creature is watching the duel between the two kings. He intends to snatch the king's power so that he becomes the only king. However, Yashiro and Kuro arrive. The creature is not able to possess anyone as everyone has been evacuated. Kuro quickly chases him, and he is caught shortly after. Kuro draws his sword, as this time he is sure there is his master's descendant who acted like evil that he must kill. However, Yashiro prevents him, and as a result, the fox creature takes over his body. It turns out Yashiro did that on purpose. He can control him, and Wiseman must be responsible for this. He then takes it into his body. After that, he will deal with the two kings. Kuro tells him not to go, but he is persistent. He then tells Kuro to leave. The creature still can control Yashiro. He begins to think he started his experiment for good sake. However, currently the kings are taking their own path. Meanwhile, in the evacuation site, everyone is gathered, except Kukuri. Yada has also returned and gets scolded for losing control of himself. Now, they wait for the upcoming result from Yashiro. As the two kings fighting, Yashiro intervenes them and takes out the colorless king. Mikoto then turns to Yashiro. He finally can avenge him, and at the same time, his power has drained. It becomes the last moment he becomes a king and his sword will fall. But before that, Risi kills him. Mikoto is seen talking something to Risi. Anna senses Mikoto's death, causing her to burst into tears while she cries out his name. The members of the Red Clan share a deep grief with his death. Rishi returns to his clan. He has done his duty. Kuro and Nico are searching for Yashiro's dead body, which there is nothing left but Yashiro's umbrella stuck in the ground. Nico believes that Wiseman is the immortal king and one day he will come back. Sometime after, a dog and a cat run away from Ashinaka High School and out from the bridge leading back to the city. After everything is in order, the Red Clan dedicates their red light to their fallen king, and so does Fushimi, which is red light floats above. Thank you for watching from the start to the end. Please like this video if you enjoy it, and don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next video.